don't listen to Sal Licata. Sal Licata, as much as he's very well respected in the New York State of Mind radio, the guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Craig Carton, Sal Licata tell you stories that are completely untrue, and they start to sell it to the New York public, and then the people write these articles and they speak about these guys like they're some kind of gods in the radio world. I would not listen to Sal Licata, first of all. Second of all, Pete Alonso is one of the most respected players in the major leagues. One of the nicest players that I've heard, to different major league players that I know that know Pete Alonso, has told me Pete Alonso is not only the face of the New York Mets, he's one of the faces of baseball. For anybody to come out and say that the players, the coaches, they believe that he has become toxic to the clubhouse, it's ridiculous, because I can never see somebody that got rid of his Twitter, got rid of his Instagram and his Facebook and his social media to stay away from the crap that people were sending him at the time that the Mets were playing terrible baseball, trying to throw everybody under the bus except him. Now all of a sudden he's become toxic to the Mets organization. I don't believe it. Don't believe anything you hear about this. I think it's terrible what the Mets are doing to him. I think he belongs amongst the league's best paid at his position. When a guy averages between 40 and 100 every single year for your team, and he gives you those power numbers, his numbers are as good as any power hitter in baseball in the last 5 years. It's not easy to find power. It's not easy to find a power hitter that is consistent, and Pete Alonso's that kind of guy.
Right, and he's durable, too. Like, this year he got hurt. He was out for 2 weeks. He came back probably a little earlier than he was supposed to, but for most of his career, he has been extremely durable, and his raw power numbers, since he's come into the league, I think it's him and Aaron Judge, 1 and 2, and whatever sample you want to use, maybe Ohtani's in the mix somewhere as well, but he's been that good with both home runs and with RBIs. He's led the National League in RBIs at certain points this year. I think now Olsen's ahead of him now, but that kind of thing is very consistent year to year, and the Mets were so bad when he came up, too. Like, the Mets were a middling team, and then they start spending their money after that. They trade for Lindor, and they start spending $400 million in each offseason, and amidst all these down times, Pete Alonso has still had that, and the leadership has always been there with somebody like him who's a homegrown Met, too. Like, these guys, especially the ones that were homegrown Mets, too, have looked up to him. Yeah, I think there was some tension maybe with him and Scherzer at certain points, but...
He's an ass!
Yeah, Scherzer's bumped around other teams, too.
He never wanted to be a Met. He took the money. He wanted to be a Dodger. If he wasn't going to be a Dodger, he probably would have been a Giant. He had no interest in being a Met. Only reason why he took it, because the Mets gave him the biggest contract in baseball history for a pitcher. Same thing with Verlander.
This is the other thing that Billy Eppler and Steve Cohen, to an extent, they cannot make this mistake of being so cute with these players, too. When you saw what happened with Jacob deGrom got hurt in the middle of the 2021 season, and we thought he was going to come back maybe within a month. They kept pushing that injury off, and it didn't seem like Jacob deGrom ever trusted them to be able to manage that injury properly. And then he comes back in 2022, bring him back in the second half of the season, then he struggles at the second half of the season, and then they don't really trust his value. And I think that's a big reason why he ended up walking. And they can't do the same kind of thing with Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso doesn't have durability issues. Yeah, his batting average is low, but his on-base percentage is still good, and he's still one of the best power bats in baseball. You're not going to get that leadership in every other place either. We've seen so many players dispute that report, and also, you're not going to trade away $131 million worth of contracts at the trade deadline and not bring in your best player.
I don't know what the Mets have done this year, and I don't know how it's helped the youngsters grow in this organization. The one thing the Yankees have done this year that the Mets haven't is they've brought their youngsters up. They let them play. The Mets this year, Buck Showalter, Billy Eppler, I don't know what's going on as far as the executives are going, and maybe bringing in a guy like David Stearns will help run this organization and with the way they believe this organization should have been run over the last couple of years, because bringing in Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander wasn't the bright way to go. If I was Pete Alonso, I want to get the hell out of here. If you know that this organization has Billy Eppler running it, spending the money that Steve Cohen has spent over the last 2 seasons, and then trading away pieces that they should have never brought to the organization from the first place, it does make you think as a youngster, should I sign with this team or go somewhere else where I have better opportunities to win a championship and, by the way, not be mistreated by the organization? Even if they brought David Stearns in, if you're already hearing from the organization that they want to move Pete Alonso, how is that going to change anything? Because if Billy Eppler says, I just don't think he's a good fit, and Steve Cohen says, let Billy run this organization and let you make the organization grow, I don't know if David Stearns and the new executives that they bring in and new voices for the organization, is this going to help the fact that Pete Alonso wants big money and has been mistreated by the organization for the last 2 seasons?